What's going on, everyone? I'm going to show you some simple tips and what I've done to start raising my ducklings inside the house. I think this is the most efficient method simply because you have a fixed temperature and you don't have to worry about the fluctuations of outside. Depending on where you are, it might be a little colder. Where I am up in Massachusetts, right now in March, it's, variably 50 degrees, 30 degrees at night. So I'd rather keep them in the house so they're nice and warm. And with this heat lamp, it just adds that extra bit of warmth that they need sometimes. So I only got 3 ducks here. I don't need too big of a space. I got a 17-gallon tote here. Originally, I raised them in a jet sled and just put wood and cardboard around the side so they couldn't jump out. For our water, I recently changed this. Just a little tote with a brick in there to weigh it down, because the other water that is right up there, they knocked it over. And there was probably an inch of water in here beneath all the shavings, and they were piled up on top of this feeder to try to get out of there. So you want your heat lamp ideally 24 inches away from the ducklings, but if they're cold, you can move it closer. I just made a little makeshift stand here. I'm sure they have ones online where you can adjust the height and everything, but ideally you want to lower the temperature by 5 degrees each day. But for me, I don't even have that. I just judge them by their behavior, and ever since day one, these guys have been nice and healthy, and they've been just loving it in here. You want to provide some sort of temperature gradient. So one side is going to be a little bit hotter than the other side, so they can have a place to cool down and warm up when they need to. Some people prefer to have a thermometer in here so they can check the temperature. Like I said before, I like to judge just by the behavior of the duckling. So if they're all huddled up together under the heat lamp, obviously that might be a little cold, but variably these guys will get up and change their minds within like 5 seconds. It's crazy. They can't make up their minds sometimes, so you can't really tell off of that. If they're constantly huddling under there, I'd say they would be cold. But if they are going away most of the time and kind of wandering around, they're probably at a good temperature. And if they're too hot, they'll be panting. You can see in their body, their compressions up and down. And you can see also with the panting, their mouth will be opening and closing like that really quickly. And that's happened sometimes, but one of them's trying to come up and jump at the camera here. Some people recommend not having these guys swim until they're about 3 weeks old. But if you think about wild ducks, like a wild mallard, they're gonna have their ducklings following them within the first 2 days. So these guys are hardy animals. Some breeds may be hardier than others, but for the most part, people like to over-exaggerate exactly what you need for these guys. And pretty much the things you see online are the most optimal, but they can survive in a wide variety of climates and pretty much just situations. For your shavings, you want to change them out probably once or twice a day. Once they get bigger, they're obviously going to make more droppings, so you might want to change them out a little bit more. But then again, as they get older, they're going to become a little bit more hardy by the day, so having those fecal droppings in there is not going to be detrimental for them. So I'd say 1 to 2 times a day is pretty good. You're commonly going to see 2 types of feed. It's going to be a crumble and more so a pellet feed. You want to start these guys on a crumble feed, and this is pretty much what that looks like, also with a little bit of water and just a bunch of crap in there. But this is what the crumbles you want. And there can be specialized, starter feeds for ducks, but I just use a multi-flat crumble feed, and it seems to have all the nutrients they need. You can look up some of the deficiencies a duck might have if you don't feed them the right food. But the feed I get, it's probably pretty basic, but it works well for what I'm doing, and these guys grow up nice and healthy. My other videos show my other ducks, and they've been doing well for the 6 months I've had them. So this guy right here can cause a lot of issues if you are not very proactive with it. This heat lamp I have was part of a starter poultry kit, which is right there. And it's probably just a cheapo. You can change the wattage of the bulb. This one I have is a 250 watt bulb, and that's the max for this specific heat lamp. But you can do a 125 watt bulb. You can also change the colors. There's commonly clear and red. Some people prefer the clear. Some people like the red a little bit better. I've always used the red. This bulb has been fine for me. Some things to note: never put it too close to any flammable material. This is rubber and it's never gotten too hot. Set this up before you get your ducklings and make sure any surfaces are not hot that aren't supposed to be. Another thing I saw, which I've started doing more, I didn't do in the past, is when you put your water in for the ducks, when you change out their water, make sure it's not cold water, because if they were to splash any of that water up towards the bulb right there, it could cause it to crack, and some people say even explode, and you don't want fire. As for raising pet ducks, probably commonly done inside. If you want your ducks to become more acclimated to you, hold them every day. When they're young, start out by holding them maybe once or twice a day and just gradually move up. Make them more comfortable with you. And when you go in there to change their food and water, they're gonna get used to your hands going in there. They're gonna get used to you. So it's gonna happen either way. But the more you hold them, the more they're gonna like you. That's in theory. Some of them might be, a little more stubborn than others, but these guys have already taken a liking to me, especially one of these black ones right here. The guy right here, the one that is laying down with his head down, that one has become pretty friendly. But my favorite is the yellow one. Before you get ducklings, it's good to know these guys are gonna grow quick, so you better have a situation ready for them where you can put them outside, because you don't want to keep them in the house forever. Maybe you do, but I personally am not keeping them in the house. So make sure you have a house set up for them outside before they're fully feathered. That's ideally when you want to put them outside. It's around 6 to 8 weeks depending on the duck breed, but make sure you know your stuff before you get these guys, and just give them the best home you can. Make sure they're nice and healthy, and make sure they're happy with you, and that's all you gotta do, really.